So my flipping endeavor started out rather rough. I tried my luck at fixing and selling an iPhone 6 Plus, only finding out that iCloud locked devices can't be unlocked, so I sold it for $50 with a new screen. Things got interesting when I bought a broken RX 580 and sold it for $110 or so. Then I lost that money to a broken console lot and a really broken RX 580 that I technically got to display with a reflow, but also not really. Luckily, I managed to find a guy that actually wanted to buy it. But then I came across this, an MSI X79 GD45 Plus motherboard being sold for parts at $35. I jumped on it and also purchased a BIOS programmer. Turned out that it only needed a flip of a switch to the backup BIOS, and I was able to get the other BIOS restored without any special tools. I listed it originally for $250 really just to see if anybody would take interest, but it was obviously way too high, so I sold it for $125 after fees and tax on Mercari. I wanted to actually start making money, so this is where the adventure begins. I picked up this Nextlink tower with an i5 4400, 4 gigs of RAM, and a decent power supply for about $70 shipped. I wasn't left with much left to get a decent graphics card, so I attempted to buy and fix a broken GTX 960, but I ended up reselling it as no matter what I did, drivers would not install. After being broke for a while, I eventually traded a $4 soundbar and $15 for an RX 580 8GB. My friend said that he was upgrading, but this card had given him some issues. After testing it on my system, it seemed to run without any issues, so I suppose that something else on his system was causing him the problem. Anyway, while I would have just kept it in my PC and called things good, I'm going to keep going until I can hopefully rebuild my entire setup. I ended up selling the card for about $110 on OfferUp, and now I can start finishing up the system. I needed a hard drive, I already had an SSD, at least 4 more gigs of RAM, and a relatively low power graphics card that can still run most games. I had some 2 gig sticks lying around, but the Asus motherboard that came in the Nextlink PC only had 1 free DIMM slot, and I didn't want anything less than 8 gigs. I asked my instructor if I could trade 2 2GB sticks for 1 4 gig stick, and let's just say it got taken care of. I take a computers class for half of my usual school day. There's a lot of spare parts that end up being sold for surplus or reused for classwork. I'm glad I was given this because now I can pocket 4 gigs for the next build, and my developing PC has 8 gigs of RAM, which is sufficient for an entry-level gaming PC. Now I initially played myself on the graphics card by losing $20 to a guy that was selling it for $50, but I made that back on my own and ended up with an HP GTX 1060. It cost me $80, and despite being quite the underdog in cooling, it'll pair nicely still with the rest of the build. I took a bit of a twist on mass storage. I found an old Samsung DVR with a 1TB hard drive for a pretty solid price. I was going to pull the drive from inside and use it in my personal system. I made this decision as I didn't want to put a slow drive in a gaming PC, and I could put that storage to better use. I instead took out my 500GB Toshiba drive, backed it up, and fully erased it to put in the gaming PC. A few days later, the 1060 arrived and stated the 6-pin power cable I had also bought. Now it was time to put it all together and see if it actually works. The build came together nicely and the 1060 runs fine. The pre-installed 92mm fan had gone bad, so I initially replaced it with another, but I ended up having to buy a 4-pin PWM fan as the speed control of 3-pin fans didn't work anywhere on this motherboard. Upon installing Windows, it was already activated, so that's a bonus. The 1060 seems to be stable with the Seasonic power supply. I'll put some benchmark numbers on the screen if possible, but other than that, I'm going to repaste the graphics card, install the new fan, and hopefully list it for sale so I can continue my flipping. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let me know in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you did enjoy the video, hit that like button, but if not, you know where to go. While you're there, consider subscribing to the channel and enable notifications for more quality tech videos. Anyways, thanks for watching and I'll see you later.